welcome to a new vlog. There's no real theme here. We're just reading literary fiction for our main focus book, but let's go through. Oh my gosh, she was kicking me. Our weekly quote is, "There is no great loss without some small gain," by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And sometimes that gain can just be experience and learning, and I do think that is a good quote. I mean, Laura Ingalls Wilder, what an icon. Now let's go through the weekly TBR. And is she gonna be being bad? Have y'all ever trained a cat before? Have y'all done it? I don't want them to get in a fight up there. But the first book on my weekly TBR is Donlan Voices, an anthology of Indigenous writing from New England by the University of Nebraska Press. So I am like 91% of the way into that. Now our main focus is A Little Life by Hanyayana Gahara. I am 50% into this one, halfway. This is about 4 college classmates as they are just drifting through life together. We're going through the decades with them. All different things happen. Addiction, success, and pride deepen over the decades, and the men are held together by their devotion to their brilliant friend, Jude, who he is very scarred, and a lot of bad stuff has happened to Jude, and it's just going through their friendship through the years. Next we have my mood read, which is A Land More Kind Than Home by Wiley Cash. This is a haunting tale of courage in the face of cruelty and the power of love to overcome the darkness that lives in us. Next, we have my ebook pick, and that is The Score by Elle Kennedy, the 3rd book in the Off-Campus series. It was actually announced recently an adaptation is coming where it's going to be like Bridgerton and follow a different couple every season. Now this has been my least favorite so far, but it's not bad. It's a 3-star. And we are following Allie, who is getting out of a long-term relationship. She hooks up with Dean De Laurentiis, who is like the playboy of the hockey team. He is a player, he likes to get around, and they hook up, and that's not like her to hook up with a random guy and to just have casual sex with a guy. And then we have Dean, who he might be catching feelings for her, and that's not normal for him just to be set on one woman. He likes to have multiple women. He doesn't want to be settled down, you know. So things for them are going they're not who they thought they were. Sorry for the cat, but they are not who they are. Like, they're changing as people, and it's hard for them to realize, but they're young, dumb, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So that is the weekly CBR this week. An update on A Little Life. I read 71 pages, and that was only 4% of the book. And I picked up on yesterday was this writing is just very episodic, and I don't like the way the story flows of just in and out of different POVs, which that's fine, but just the flow of the years and all of that, because I'm like, well, they're 43 now. In my head, they were like 25. I don't like the flow of time and how this is told. We are back with Jude today and going through, again, back to his backstory. And these are awful, awful, like some of the worst things in this world that this character is going through. And I'm like, yes, this is very sad. This is very uncomfortable to read, and yes, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable, because if you're not uncomfortable by this, I'm scared of you. Very uncomfortable, and that wouldn't impact my reading experience, because I've read like similar things have happened in my all-time favorite book, but again, that was my all-time favorite book. I don't feel anything towards these characters. I'm like, yeah, that's sad, but okay. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, of how I don't really feel a connection to the characters, even if they're going through these awful, awful things. And Jude is supposed to be this very special person. It says their devotion to their brilliant, enigmatic Jude, a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma. So why are they so devoted to this guy? Why is he so special to them? Why does everybody think he's so special? I don't understand. Maybe we'll get more clarification, but Willem is definitely my favorite character. He's the one who's an actor. He's doing movies and all this stuff, and his story has been the one that's intrigued me the most. But I do think like Malcolm's story is interesting, and I do think JB's story is interesting. And Jude, it's a very awful story that he's going through. which it is interesting, but definitely Willem has had my favorite story in here. But Harold I also found very relatable. I do think you can find relatability in all of these characters. It's a very confusing thing, and I'm so scared when I'm going to be doing my written book review, because I just think this is going to be a very hard one to review, because I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's somewhere in the middle. Tuesday, it looks kind of okay, focused. I am still pretty tired. I just can't wait to not be tired anymore. Hopefully I get my social battery back soon, but I don't think it's gonna be soon, because I do have to go to the lawyer's office tomorrow, and I've never been to a lawyer's office before. Sorry for the background noise, but I've never been to one of those before, so I am super nervous for all that legal stuff, because y'all know when that stuff happens in books, I'm just like, I don't know what any of that means, so I am scared for that. And then, but Friday, because y'all know Friday has been the days where I've been having to go to Horry County, and I don't have to do that this week. And hopefully I can just get back in my normal Friday routine, which is I go to Starbucks, I go to the thrift store, which I have been going to the thrift stores, but just not my local thrift stores, and I want to get back to my local thrift stores. And I just, yeah, I can't wait to have Starbucks again. I've not had Starbucks in weeks, and I want it. Because, and I wonder if they miss me, like, have they realized I haven't been there? I don't know, but I have not been there in so long. This vlog's up, I should be hanging out on a beach, which it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be 90 degrees, but I am gonna, as I said, I'm gonna be at the beach, so it's gonna be, you know, breezy water. I'm not gonna go in my bathing suit today because I don't think the water is warm enough quite yet, but I'm just gonna go hang out on the beach, and I don't know which beach I'm gonna go to yet, but somewhere in North Carolina. And I mean, I can gamble there, you know, place bets, so fun. I don't know why I'm telling you all this now, just because I want to talk about me being tired, and that's probably not going to be going anywhere soon. But I read 126 pages today in A Little Life. I have my notes on my hand, and one of the interesting things that came up today is realizing you're famous. And I never thought about that with like celebrities or, you know, athletes or whoever, that when did they sit down and realize that they're famous? Like, I never thought about that. I just thought that was interesting. But something with the side characters in here, I'm just like, who? Especially Kit and Richard. So I know Kit is somehow related to Willem in his career. I don't know if it's like his manager or his agent or something. And then Richard is connected with Jude. Again, I don't know how. I don't know if he was a colleague or maybe somebody from law school. I don't know. See, there's lawyers in this, but I don't know what that connection is. So just the names come up, and I'm like, I told you what I just told you. That's what I know about them. Well, I'm not exactly sure who they really are. My next point is a big theme in here is relationships, and how our relationships shape us as a person and make us who we are as a person. Are we really independent beings? No, like all those bonds you have with people, good or bad, they are what make you who you are. And that is just really interesting to think about. So go after people who have a positive impact in your life and not a negative impact in your life. And I know, and we can see here, that is extremely hard to break from that cycle. And another thing with the relationships is somebody who has been abused being in a relationship, and not just being in a romantic relationship, but all those other relationships, and then loving somebody who has been abused. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean loving in a romantic sense, but caring for somebody who has just been in those situations, and just how you have to adjust with, like, your relationship with everybody is going to be different. And yeah, it's really interesting to think about. So those are my thoughts on A Little Life for the day. I should finish this book by the end of the week, but again, I don't know how long I'm going to be at the law office tomorrow. I don't know what's all going to go down there. I'm nervous, but I will keep you updated. Hey guys, so I just finished A Land More Kind Than Home by Wiley Cash, and I figured I would walk y'all through what I do when I finish a book. So I already took a picture of it for Bookstagram because, you know, I wanted to get that picture done as soon as possible because of lighting and that kind of thing. So my reading journal right here, where I'd log in like everything I've read. Since this was a mood read, it's not going to be on my TBR page. We are going to go over to this page where, as you can see, there's just a lot of blank books, and you fill in the title, and I tend to do it however it is on the spine of the actual book. So it's just a straight down line for a land. It is in lowercase. I personally don't like that, but more kind than home. And it is by Wiley Cash. I really like that name, Wiley Cash. It just sounds like Western, like cowboy name. Let's go to our next section here. So this is like my last one for Remarkably Bright Creatures. Just to show y'all an example of a completed page, because I'm not going to do the sticker part and all because I have to print stuff out for that, and that will take a little bit more time. But the title of this book is, what, I think I was using this blue pencil. The title of the book is A Land More Kind Than Home. The author is Wiley Cash. Genre is thriller. I did read this physically, so I highlight that because you can highlight it, circle, whatever. I did the text version. Year published, I actually don't know what year this book was published, so we're gonna find out together here. 2012, wow, I thought it was gonna be a lot more recent than that. And page, I think it was 306. I don't know yet when I began and when I finished. What is today? Today's the 13th, so I know I finished on 5/13/25. I don't know what day I started though. I have to wait till I write my review for Goodreads. Who would I recommend this book to? Fans of Southern Gothic literature. And this book made me feel, this is always so hard because they only give you those and I'm like, what did it make me feel? Their options are happy, sad, bittersweet, warm, thoughtful, peaceful, inspired. It didn't really make me feel any of those. So I'm not going to put anything at the moment. And this book taught me, I don't know what it taught me. This is so hard to do off the bat. Appalachian culture. It showed me what modern Appalachian culture is like. I remember the Appalachian hair trend like this. Mine was brushed with heat today, but I see all these girls and like I watched the Netflix NASCAR thing. I finished that and their hair is just so like straight and perfect, and I'm like, no, that is not my hair. Like I could never get my hair to look like that, but I was like, that's that Appalachian hair happening right here. Yeah, we love the Appalachian ancestry. But okay, we're going to go into Call Pal now, which is my favorite part. Characters, I'm giving a 4. Not my absolute favorite characters I've ever read from, but I did really enjoy these characters, especially the character of Jess Hall, who is a little boy when all this is happening, seeing things that he's not supposed to be seeing, and he's very protective of his older brother, who is a mute, and I really liked seeing the world from the eyes of a child. But something else I liked, so I think all these characters were so necessary to the story that they all had a point of being here and all of their POVs were relevant to the story. And I liked how we're seeing the same events all through the eyes of different people and people of different walks of life and different ages. I think different ages was a big thing there. I just really liked how that was done. Atmosphere, I'm giving a 5. It was my favorite part. As I said, this is Southern Gothic at its finest. It has just such that Gothic vibe. This is taking place in Western North Carolina, and it's like, so y'all know I drove the Blue Ridge Parkway, or some of it, you know, a few weeks ago, and it was very smoky. It's clouds, but it was living up to its name. The Smoky Mountains were, and that is what this feels like. It's just that fog coming over the mountains. That is what this book feels like, and it's just so, it's not creepy, but it's just a Gothic feeling. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, it fits that vibe perfectly. And then just the culture and dialect, all of that was so spot on. Let's talk about the writing. The writing, I'm going to be given a 3 because pacing was my biggest issue with this book. So the first 25%, I was really struggling with this book, getting into the book. But once we hit that quarter of the way mark, I was intrigued. I wanted to know where the story was going to go. And you have to wait a quarter of the way into the book for it to really get going. And at that first quarter of the book, it was kind of wordy. And it was too much for me to be taken in for this kind of story for a thriller. You don't want slow pacing in a thriller, just my personal opinion, because this is my book review. So we're going to be giving the writing a 3. The plot I am going to give a 4 because I do think this plot is really intriguing once it does start get going, once it starts to get going, that's how you say it. And just seeing religion and how it can go bad because people take advantage of people's beliefs and everything. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy to think about. I just had that thought that people will go, especially in these rural, poor, impoverished communities. Appalachia is the poorest part of the United States. And seeing people come in and take advantage of those people is awful, 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 awful. And I mean, it's something we're still seeing today. As I said, this is in the 1980s, but we're still seeing that today. Let me tell you, we're still seeing it. And even just on social media, how people take advantage of Appalachia, it's disgusting. I'm thinking of all the stuff with Hurricane Helene and just seeing the AI pictures people had and just politicians saying random stuff that is not legit. It's just disgusting. And intrigue, because I told y'all I struggled with the intrigue, but once it did start going, it was good. So I think when I'm saying it's good, I think we're going to give intrigue a 3. Logic, we are going to give a 4, just because I had to think a little bit, because I do think everything makes sense and having these POVs that we had makes sense. And enjoyment, I'm going to give a 4. We're going to do the math here and see what this book is going to end up being rated. 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 is 27. Divide by 7, and we have ourselves a 3.85 like we always get. So this was a 4-star read. So yes, I would recommend that you pick up A Land More Kind Than Home by Wiley Cash. Guys, sorry, I'm sitting on my phone. Happy Wednesday. So I did go to the lawyer's office today. I think I was there less than 30 minutes practically. Just signing papers. They had to make copies of like the will and stuff, and yeah, I don't really know what to tell you what they did because my dad did the majority of the talking, because again, I don't understand legal stuff, and just thinking about it gets me really overwhelmed. And sorry about the shivers. It was fine. The only thing that was kind of embarrassing is so my dad was talking to the lawyer, and then there was me and the paralegal. We're all at the same table. She was asking like what my last name was, and I thought she was because I saw in the blank, I saw where it said mailing address, so I was like, oh, the address? And she's, because I couldn't hear because the men were talking so loud, and I was just like, scared. Stressed out because I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done anything like this before. But nobody made me feel embarrassed or anything, and everybody was like really cool and nice. Like it wasn't what I expected at all, so that was really cool to use that word again. It was just like really like laid back. I had nothing to be worried about, if we're being honest. So I know when I have to go back for other stuff, I forget all that I have to go back for, because in South Carolina this is like an 8-month process, which is very long compared to other states. I don't know what states are shorter or whatnot, but in South Carolina apparently it's really long, which that's annoying. But I mean, South Carolina's only like last place in everything. I'm somebody who wants to do everything at once. Oh yeah, we're not gonna get into that other stuff because this is all like other stuff that I did today that didn't have anything to do with the law stuff. But I did go to Target, and I did get Frederick Bachman's new book that came out last week. I wanted to get last week, but I couldn't find it. It said it was in stock, but I guess they didn't have it on the shelves yet. And Frederick Bachman's one of my all-time favorite writers. This is My Friends. I do not know what this book's about, so we're gonna find out here together. Let me take the receipt out. The world is full of miracles, but none greater than how far a young person can be carried by someone else's belief. Oh my gosh. Most people don't even notice them. 3 tiny figures sitting at the end of a long pier in the corner of one of the most famous paintings in the world. Most people think it's just a depiction of a wide expanse of sea. But Louisa, soon to be 18 years old, an aspiring artist herself, knows otherwise. She is determined to find out the story behind these 3, this word that keeps coming up this week, enigmatic figures. Out of the painting emerges a transcendent work of art, a painting that, after a chance encounter in an alleyway, will unexpectedly be placed into Louisa's care. She embarks on a surprise-filled cross-country journey to discover how the painting came to be and decide what to do with it. The closer she gets to the painting's birthplace, the more anxious she becomes about what she'll find. Louisa's complicated life is proof that happy endings are sometimes possible, but they don't always take the form we expect them to. Because I love Frederick Bachman's books, and is this one translated? Translated by Neil Smith. My favorite book by him, if you're wondering, is Us Against You, which is the sequel to Beartown. I've read A Man Called Ove, loved it. Read Beartown, loved it. The Winners, loved it. Anxious People, loved it. Beartown is the book that got me into hockey, which is kind of like, that was the one to get me into hockey. But yes, he is an incredible writer. I love his writing style, so cannot wait to read this one day. And I mean, look at it. This is perfect for summer. And then it's yellow, which yellow is the color for May, like a bright yellow like this. Oh my gosh, and with the blue, we love that. It is time for the nightly update on A Little Life. My phone just came flying down. I should finish the book tomorrow. I think I am at 90-something%. Actually, I can see on here. I'm at 95%. I only have like 40 pages left, I think. I read 165 pages in here today. Kind of crazy, but just my schedule, since it was so different today, everything got thrown around. I read at different times and therefore just had more time to read. Thank you to the rain for that, because that just kind of changed my schedule as well, of like when I walk the dogs and that kind of thing. And I was able to read 165 pages in here. Kind of crazy. And there's Penny, one of the dogs I was just talking about. So I don't have a lot of new thoughts today, but I have y'all know Willem's my favorite character in here. I really liked getting to see just being famous, being a movie star and all of that. I've really enjoyed reading that, and then just the relationship dynamics with Jude as a character I've really enjoyed. Now let me tell y'all, Jude is one of those characters like Frankie McGrath who every single bad thing that can happen to a person has practically happened to him, but unlike the women, I don't find him insufferable. Now why is that? Because I am not immersed into his shoes, into his story. I'm not connected to him as a character. I can be like, yeah, that's really messed up stuff happening to him, and that is sad, that is gross, but I don't feel a connection with him where it might be sad, but I don't want to cry. So those are my thoughts on A Little Life from today. Now, I am going to be starting my next mood reading book today during the intermissions of the hockey game, which the hockey game starts in 10 minutes. Now, this author, I have no idea if he's been canceled or not, because y'all know just white men get canceled all the time. So if he's done anything controversial, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Y'all can let me know in the comments if he has. I probably should have Wikipedia'd him before this. But a few years ago, when I was just getting into BookTube, I think it was the book Castle, is that her name? Her name is Alice, and I can see her face, but I only forget people's channel names. I know their name, but I'm like, what's the channel name? I learned about this book through her channel, and that is A Keeper by Graham Norton. I do love this cover. Maybe this is supposed to be more of a fall read, the orange and then the foiling on the leaves of the trees. And look how large this text is, guys. This isn't like it's a large text edition or anything. I'm not even familiar with this publisher, Hodder and Stoughton. It might be a UK, yeah, this is a UK edition here. It's kind of beat up, but I'm not too upset about that. But we need to find out what this book is about, because I bought this book again in like 2018. The truth drifts out to sea, riding the waves out of sight, and then the tide turns. Elizabeth Kean returns to Ireland after her mother's death, intent only on wrapping up that dismal part of her life. There is nothing here for her. She wonders if there ever was. The house of her childhood is stuffed full of useless things, her mother's presence already fading, and perhaps she has not found the small stash of letters. The truth would never have come to light. 40 years earlier, a young woman stumbles from a remote stone house. The night quiet, but for the tireless wind that circles her as she hurries further into the darkness away from the cliffs and the sea. She has no sense of where she is going, only that she must keep on. This compelling new novel confirms Graham Norton's status as a fresh literary voice, bringing his clear-eyed understanding of human nature and its darkest flaws. So the human nature and darkest flaws, y'all know that's something that I like. And then this Irish setting sounds really good. And what's the mystery going to be? What's going to be that stash of letters? What's all that about? So I will be starting this today. Hey guys, happy Thursday. I just finished A Little Life by Hanyayana Gahara, and we are going to go over my thoughts and everything. We're not going to do the whole journaling system that I told you about that I do. We're just going to go to the page and do call pal together so I can voice my thoughts about the book and everything with you guys and find out what I'm actually going to rate it. So we are going to start with characters, which I'm giving a 3-star. Characters, there were some characters that I really loved, like Harold, who is Jude's mentor in life, and then Willem, who is one of the friends, the 4 friends who this story revolves around. I would love a book just about Willem. If this was just about Willem, I would have ate it up. I found his character so interesting and how he dealt with fame, and just his overall story was really intriguing. What is my issue with the characters? Why am I only giving them a 3-star? One of the little issues would be the side characters didn't really stand out to me and were interchangeable. Characters like Richard, Lucian, Kit, and yeah, just a bunch of random names where I'm like, who are these people? What is their purpose to this story? Why are they here? We didn't really need them in the story because they weren't really developed. Now, my main complaint is the character of Jude, who is, I would say, the main character of this book. I don't understand why everybody finds him to be so special, why his friends find him to be so special. I guess it would be the mystery around him. Not really sure. And he's one of those characters where every bad thing that can happen to a person has happened to him. Literally every single bad thing that could happen has happened. And that will either break me, make me sad, make me feel despair, or it will make me frustrated because I'm just like, it's trauma porn. Now, this did neither for me. Now, why is that? I was never immersed into this story. I was never put into the shoes of these characters, feeling what they felt. Sure, I can look at these things and be like, that is disgusting, that is sad, that is terrible. Again, it doesn't break me, it doesn't frustrate me, it doesn't make me feel anything because I lacked a connection to these characters. Atmosphere, I'm gonna give it a 2. This is, for like tone, vibe, very like pretentious. I think if you like The Secret History, you will like this book. Now, I definitely did prefer The Secret History to this book. I did not hate this book. I didn't love this book. And I don't think it is a bad book. It is definitely on the pretentious side. So if you are an academia person, all of that kind of vibe, I think you'll like this. It does really feel like New York City. This is a New York City book, but one of my issues was, I guess it was to make this book feel timeless. On the back, it even says, a hymn to brotherly bonds and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century. Again, it feels timeless, I guess is how you would say it, because I have no idea when this was taking place. We are following decades on decades of time with these characters, but I'm like, when is this happening? Sure, emails and phones are mentioned, but this is in New York City. We don't get 9/11 mentioned, so I'm like, is this before 9/11, after 9/11? And it says 21st century, so it has to be after, right? No pop culture references, so that can just be, that's one of the things with this book, it lacked clarity. Let's go into the writing. I'm giving writing a 3 because when you stand back and just like will read a section of this, you'll be like, whoa, that is beautiful writing, especially at one of the deaths of a character. I was just like, oh my gosh, that was absolutely beautiful how it was depicted. As I said, it lacked clarity a lot of times because I'd be like, okay, who's talking? Whose POV are we at? Where I would just be getting confused at times. And that could just be a personal me, like everything in a book review is personal. Everything when you're reviewing something, it is your personal opinion. So that's just how it was for me, but I don't think the writing was bad by any means. I do think this was a well-written book. Let's go into the plot. And my pencil, the lead broke. Plot, this is where it's gonna get really hard. I'm gonna say a 3. We're gonna give it, the plot, a 3. I do think how this depicted relationships and relationship dynamic. Relationships make us who we are as a person. Having somebody who has gone through trauma, who has gone through awful things, who has been abused, and being loved by that person, what relationships are like for somebody who has gone through so much, friendship, and just how all our relationships in life, not necessarily just romantic, platonic, familiar, all different kinds of relationships, they just make us who we are as a person. We talked about with East of Eden last month. That book was really trying to dissect identity, what makes you who you are, and I really do think it's the relationships and the people around you are what make you as a person. And it's kind of hard to think about, because it's like, are we an independent being if that is what makes us? Now I'm thinking about, like, you know, like feral people, like the Jungle Book, you know, where like raised by wolves, that kind of case. How if you're not around humans, you don't even get language. I mean, you get language, but you don't get word language. Wow. Relationships really do just make us human, if you will. And I do think that was depicted very well. Maybe we could do plot up to a 4, but since I wrote down a 3, we're gonna keep it as a 3. Intrigue, a 2, because it just took so long, and when I'm not really caring about the characters and caring about what they're going through, I'm not really gonna care where the story ends up going. Logic, I do think the logic was wow, and it was just so real. An enjoyment, I would say a 2. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't think it was great either. So we're gonna add all these up and see. But I also want to talk about the representation in here. Now, there's all sorts of representations. I do think our characters who are like people of color were kind of pushed to the side. At the same time, Jude, they don't know what race he is or anything like that, what ethnicity he is. So I did want to make comment on that. Then so this book was very popular when I first got into reading back in like 2017, 2018. I don't know what year this book was published, but back then in the 2010s when I was getting into reading. But now I have since seen there's a lot of debate around this book. One being the trauma dumping, another being how sexual abuse and sexual assault is depicted, that apparently the author didn't do any research on it and just went with a vibe. That is kind of, I don't know how you write something and don't research. I'm just somebody who loves researching stuff so much, so I don't understand how you don't do that, even though, I mean, that would be something incredibly difficult to research, but I mean, you're writing it, so you must not have issue with it. Like, you know, it doesn't trigger you. Another thing is the depiction of LGBT characters and that representation. There were just some parts, especially in the last quarter of the book, where I was just kind of like, ugh. Again, I don't know when this was taking place, so that can obviously have, because I feel like in our society we care so much about labels, and having a label for your sexuality and for your identity, which people can do what they want, in my personal opinion. I don't mind what you identify as, that doesn't bother me, or if you even identify as anything. But I can definitely see where people can take issue with how it was handled in here. And when I was reading it, I was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. Also, we had the representation of disability, and if it was well done or not. Obviously, I do not know, because I do not have the disabilities that our character in here had. So I just want to say that I have seen discussions. I haven't read any yet, because I didn't want any spoilers or to have an impact on my reading experience. That's something I do after I finish a book. But I have seen that there are discussions about the representation in this book and how the author went about those things. So let's do the math here and find out what I am going to rate A Little Life.
So 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2
is 19 divided by 7. So this is getting a 2.71. So a 2.75. I will be unhauling the book. I do have it on my Kindle. But yeah, it didn't do anything for me. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But, you know, it happened. I read it. I read this tome. What am I going to be reading next? Next, I'm going to be picking up the audiobook for Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult, my first Jodi Picoult book. Now, what is this book about? We are going to read the description together here. Ruth Jefferson is a labor and delivery nurse at a Connecticut hospital with more than 20 years experience. During her shift, Ruth begins a routine checkup on a newborn, only to be told a few minutes later that she's been reassigned to another patient. The parents are white supremacists and don't want Ruth, who is African American, to touch their child. The hospital complies with their request, but the next day the baby goes into cardiac distress, while Ruth is alone in the nursery. Does she obey orders, or does she intervene? Ruth hesitates before performing CPR and as a result is charged with a serious crime. Kennedy McGuire, a white public defender, takes her case but gives unexpected advice. Kennedy insists that mentioning race in the courtroom is not a winning strategy. Conflicted by Kennedy's counsel, Ruth tries to keep life as normal as possible for her family, especially her teenage son, as the case becomes a media sensation. As the trial moves forward, Ruth and Kennedy must gain each other's trust and come to see what they've been taught their whole lives about others and themselves might be wrong. With incredible empathy, intelligence, and candor, Jodi Picoult tackles race, privilege, prejudice, justice, and compassion, and doesn't offer easy answers. Small Great Things is a remarkable achievement from a writer at the top of her game. Also, so I did get this book at Goodwill a few months ago, and as you can see, my edition was annotated, and I cannot wait to follow along with this person's annotations. Like, they have these just pink post-it notes every now and then. I do think I saw some highlighted spots, so it's gonna be really cool because I'm going to be annotating it as well. So kind of like a buddy read with somebody who I don't know who they are, but maybe they'll see my video one day, who knows. But they're the ones who recommended the audiobook, so that's why I'm going to be doing the audiobook. But I am going to go get some lunch, and then when I get back, work on my reading journal. But I wanted to update y'all on this first. Okay, Fred is trying to scoot by the tripod. Okay, he made it. We are going to go through my notes so far and the original reader's notes so far in Small Great Things. And Fred definitely was laying on the dust jacket and got cat hair on it. Thanks, Fred. But I have my tab, or my key to the tab. So the first one is from the person who originally owned this book. They read this on January 26, 2021. And here we are 4 years later. I got this book, I don't know if it was this year or the end of last year. I think it was this year. I picked this book up a year ago. I knew it would blow me away. I'm not sure why it took me so long to start it. Maybe the size. I'm listening to it on audio and oh my gosh, Audra McLeod is the narrator. It's perfect and so realistic. And then this is where I think they might have had a mistake. I'll be surprised if this is a 5-star. So I think they meant they won't be surprised, because all of what they were saying before, they think the book will blow them away and all that. So, you know. And my first note is, so y'all know I read you the description of the book earlier, and we have we start out in 1970 with a flashback to when our character is a child. Her sister is Rachel, and they're at work with their mom, and the mom is I don't know exactly what the mom works in somebody's home, so I don't know what exactly she does, but she brought the kids to work with her, and the woman who she works for is going into labor like a month early. She tells the kids, she's like, stay here, and yeah, because they just hear a scream. But Rachel, that's the sister, was the first out of her chair, and she wasn't one to follow instructions. So I think Ruth is going to be one who follows instructions, and what we saw in the description, she goes against that. This one, I had no idea this could happen, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but he was fine. So the baby that was born, he was fine, even though he was almost a full month early. A casualty of the barometric pressure dropping with the storm, which caused a PROM, so P-R-O-M, a premature rupture of membranes. Like, who knew that could happen? I had no idea. I know, like, for me, sometimes, like, I'll get, not a migraine, but I'll get a headache if the pressure in the air is at a certain way, or is it air? I don't know what it is, but the pressure in the atmosphere, it will, like, sometimes I'll notice maybe I'm a little crampy, or, you know, like my muscles might cramp up or something like that. But I had no idea it was an actual thing. I thought that was just an old wives' tale or whatever, but apparently it's real. So I don't know if this is going to be the case yet, but I like how our sections, how we have stage 1 active labor. Is it going to be like parts of the birthing process and what you go through having a baby at a hospital? I don't know, but if it is, I think that's cool and creative. And okay, this dust jacket is falling off. All right, I have a lot of tabs. Like, I just want to cry how beautifully this was written. She wore an so basically this baby was born and he had some deformities to him that he wouldn't be able to like couldn't sustain life for a long time. She wore an expression I've only ever seen in paintings in museums of a love and grief so fierce that they forged together to create some new raw emotions. So first I made a note of that. And then it kept going. I was like, oh my gosh, this is emotional. I turned to the father. Would you like to hold your son? He looked like he was about to be sick. I can't, he muttered, and bolted from the room. I followed him, but was intercepted by the nurse in training who was apologetic and upset. I'm sorry, she said. It was a monster. It is a baby, I corrected, and I pushed past her. I was like, oh my gosh, I love just to see the goodness in people who aren't going to judge somebody for how they look, even if it's just a little newborn baby. It's just, I can just tell. That's when I was like, yeah, she's a great person, Ruth is. And then this is a note that the original reader highlighted. I just put a tab. It goes to show you every baby is born beautiful. It's what we project on them that makes them ugly. And oh my gosh, so true, so true. Next one is, yeah, when I was talking about like the prom thing, I didn't expect so much detail. Like, I did see there's a bibliography in the back, and that's rare for fiction in my opinion. You see there's a bibliography back here. Yeah, the research is incredible of just all the different things that go into, like, that you have to check when the baby is born, and just being in labor and the parts everything that goes into being a labor and delivery nurse and giving birth in a hospital. And yeah, I didn't know like any of this. It is so crazy the amount of detail that Jodi Picoult is doing here. And then we went to our next chapter. I was not expecting to have another POV. I thought it was just going to be Ruth, but it does make sense to have the white supremacists who are like, we don't want her working on our baby. And our original reader again left a note. There are so many people in this world that are exactly like Turk. This book isn't scary or disturbing, it's real. I've witnessed this sort of hatred my entire life. It saddens me that it will always be this way. Breaks my heart. I personally do think it's scary and disturbing, even though the original reader says it's real. Like, it is real, but it's scary and disturbing at the same time, in my personal opinion. And just reading this, like on this first page, just how he's talking about his wife, and it's the typical, the race war and all this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so gross. I feel gross reading this. And we only have to talk about generational trauma here. Now, even if somebody is mentally ill, it's how earlier in the book I was talking about how I told y'all we need to treat everybody with empathy and compassion, but how do you treat a bad person that way? Yeah, it's just something really hard, and I don't know. I don't have answers for that, to be honest with y'all. It's something that I'm still learning and all that. So we see, so he was kind of raised by his grandfather, and the grandfather is a Vietnam vet, and he is just making, basically he called it basic training, where he would drop Turk off in the woods and drive miles away, and Turk would like have to find him, and just doing all this crazy like military training, making a little boy do all of that. People's childhoods mess them up. How people are raised, again, that's a relationship. How your parents or whoever raises you makes you who you are as a person. And here, so we're seeing, I'm assuming that the grandfather probably has some form of, I know we shouldn't assume anything, but PTSD or some kind of, PTSD from Vietnam, and he is projecting that mental illness onto his grandson, making his grandson go through all these trials and everything, which is obviously no child should have to be doing like military training. That's what caused our not main character, but caused Turk to be messed up. And I mean, it goes into a lot of other stuff as well. It's cycle of trauma that we see. We also see him befriend people who are white supremacists. We're seeing how he became a white supremacist, and I am stunned. Like, he goes to this festival, and it's all in Vermont, which has me shocked, because I picture Vermont being Bernie Sanders and being very just far left. But I mean, I've never been there, so that, like, I don't know what it's really like. And it's this festival they go to where there's like shooting ranges, and they're shooting at, yeah, like, you know, the targets are people, like not real, like not humans, but you know, like pictures of people. And the speeches they're hearing and all of this, I'm stunned reading this. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And like our original reader said, this is real. Like, this kind of thing is actually happening. You won't, for me, you only see the KKK and all that. You're like, that's the 1950s. I mean, obviously, you know deep down that it is still going on, but it's just mind-blowing to know people believe this stuff and are doing this kind of thing. It honestly just, it has me so shocked. And that's everything that I read in Small Great Things for the day. I'm going to wrap up the vlog here. So I have read over 100 pages every day this week. I actually read 213 pages yesterday. I have completed 2 books this week, being A Land More Kind Than Home and A Little Life. I have also hauled 1 book, being My Friends by Frederick Bachman. That book was $20.99. Probably should have waited to get it a book of the month. I could have got it half the price there. I don't know why I impulse bought it at Target. I don't know. So maybe if you have a book of the month subscription, buy it from there, because you will save money if you do that. And there's no theme for next week's vlog. We will most likely still be reading Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. I don't think I'll finish this over the weekend. I'm not sure though. And again, I am doing the audiobook over here on my phone. But that is everything for this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it all the way through, leave a flower emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!